This is The Ultimate Entrepreneur with Jay Abraham, exclusively on ASBN.com.
You could be sitting on a gold mine, that's right, even without realizing it. Today we are learning how to monetize what you already know with Jay Abraham, business leader, top executive coach and founder and CEO of the Abraham Group. You've seen him here before on ASBN, and this is The Ultimate Entrepreneur with Jay Abraham. So thank you so much, Jay, once again for joining me on the show. We love it when you come on. Our audience loves you, and you really bring the great content that we all need in running successful businesses. So this is a pretty cool topic. It's turning your expertise into new products, services, or even licensing deals. And this is something that you know a little something about. So talk to us about that.
So here's a very interesting concept, and I'll tell you some stories. If you have a capability that is better when quantified than literally 51% of the other people doing it, you have expertise that can be monetized. Over my career, scarily, I probably trained 1,000 people who had latent expertise but had never really realized it and thus never monetized it, to show them how to do it, internal and external.
Yeah.
Now, what does internal mean? Let's say that you are a salesperson in a sales organization with a lot of different people that are selling. Maybe there's 100 salespeople. If you happen to exceed dramatically the performance of everyone else in any or many categories, opening accounts, holding margin, selling, cross-selling other products, retention, any of those things, and you can quantify how much better you are, rather than just freely sharing it, you can go to your company and say, look, I am 50% better at this, 25 at that. And what it means in terms of dollars is that I bring an extra, $2 million to the bottom line that everyone else doesn't. I would be willing to teach what I do to everybody else if I get a piece of the enhancement, or if I get paid. That's internally. You can do the same thing operationally. If there's 50 people in customer service and you start identifying the denominators or the measurable metrics, and you find out that I get twice as much processed, or I close twice as many complaints, or I get people buying again, or any denominator that has measurable and bottom line or operationally effective impactful impact, then you can basically present to your employer that I know how to do this. I can do it for everybody. It's going to save everybody in the department a combined, 80 hours a week, which is the equivalent of paying somebody, $3,000. It doesn't even count the other attributes. I'll be happy to train it, but I want either a piece of the savings or I want a fee if I do it. And you can internally, you can do that. That's just internally. Externally, there's two ways to do it. I was just talking to somebody about this. They're buying a bunch of weird businesses. It's an attorney that's buying a bunch of business. They're buying a tow truck business, which I think is strategically brilliant, but they're also buying a laundromat in college towns, a bunch of them. And we were talking about it, and I said, well, let's look at, are you buying it just to keep the cash flow? Or are you buying it just to have a hedge? Because if you're going to buy it, why don't you buy it to grow it? And I said, first thing you do is see if you can find better ways to monetize the people when they're sitting there. If there's 3 different laundromats and you're only getting a third, figure what kind of experiential things you can do to increase it. Figure out how to basically, make it more, everything. And I said, if you can and you measure it, it's cool for your singular laundromat. But since there are probably 100,000 laundromats in this country, if you found every laundromat owner in every other college town you're not in, you could show them what you've got, and you could basically offer to teach them how to do it for a piece of the upside or a monthly usage.
Yep.
Speaking of which, just to give you some examples, in my career, we had a client that was a lumber mill. And I'm going to give you a quick lesson in lumber milling. That'll be fun cocktail talk. So In a lumber mill, the singularly biggest expense is kiln drying. It is the heating process. You start with a tree. You cut the bark out, and it's a green piece of timber. You cut it into boards, which are the predecessor of lumber.
Okay.
And those boards are green and soft. How do you get a green, soft piece of lumber hard enough to withstand the support of a wall or a floor or anything else? You heat it in a methodology that gets it tensile strength. But if you do it wrong, the cost of doing it is off the wall, very expensive. Do it wrong and you warp and you lose it. You do it wrong and you don't quite warp it, but you get a substandard. You do it right, you cut your energy cost in half. You do it right, you have almost no waste. You do it right, you end up with almost all AA instead of C lumber. My client did it right. He had 1/2 of the expense of energy, which is the biggest single cost. He had twice the upgrade, meaning the quality. He had almost 1/4 of the scrap, meaning he was 3/4 utilization. And he was making $2 million. But I looked at his business and realized we could have given that lumber freely away to people. And after about 1,000 miles, the cost of transportation would have been prohibited. We drew a line around 1,000 miles and we got a database of every lumber mill in the world, not in the United States, not North America, not in this continent, the world. And we basically offered to teach them this for $25,000 a year. And basically we got 250 lumber mills that paid us $25,000 a year.
Wow.
If you do the math, he's making $2 million from his lumber mill doing it. He's making $6 million for letting other people do it.
Oh my gosh.
We had a car wash. The car wash had a methodology for upgrading the premium $29 package, and they were getting about 4 times the average buy-in. And it was making them about $20-some thousand extra a month over what a normal car wash would generate. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is they're only drawing from about 5 miles. If you're in Atlanta, you're not going to go to this car wash down the street.
That's right.
Palo Springs, where I live.
That's right.
So we basically drew a line around 5 miles, and we went to every other car wash in the country. We got $2,000 to pay $100 a month to use this methodology.
That's
He's making
fantastic.
$2,000 using it, $200,000 a month licensing it. I can give you over and over again. That's another way to do it. And almost any process that outperforms the norm and can be quantified to either more money it makes you, more time it saves you and your people,
Yep.
or more competitive superiority it gives you, more reduction in expense.
Sure.
If you can quantify it, you can basically sell it either as a consultant, as a trainer, as a usage on a fee basis, an annual subscription, as a performance based where you share in either the savings or the profit. And I've done that for lots of people. And so that's another way. The biggest mistake most people make who possess expertise and never monetize it is they don't know how to quantify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and so let's say that I am the construction manager for a builder, and I have a system I've helped create that gets our job done under budget, under timeline, and we do 10 projects a year. And that makes us, 15% more profitable. But we just do 10 projects a year. If there are, 10,000, contractors, developers doing 10, that's basically 100,000. If I got, 3% to let me teach them what I did and just got a percentage that was correlated to the savings, it would be millions of dollars, wouldn't it? But most people don't understand. Just saying, I'm a consultant in sales. I'm a consultant in in production. I am an efficiency consultant. What I get people to do is basically, first of all, quantify it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically figure the way they're going to monetize it, because there's many forms, as I say, training, one time, annual, monthly, correlated to the result. And then I have them basically be willing to guarantee an outcome, minimum outcome, assuming the user applies it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And if the person possessing the expertise is very proficient at what he or she does, but they are not really great salespeople, they are not good negotiators,
Right.
I show them that you can get any salesperson or any attorney to do that for you. Just give them a share of the revenue.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that's another way.
Yep.
I bet,
Yep.
you know, and so the thing is, you could take any form of endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
business, operation, buying, production, hobbies, skill sets, relation, anything you can do better than most that has a successful and impactful bottom line and measurable outcome for people, as long as you can quantify it. And then, depending on the quantification, this is where it gets really interesting, future pace it into the, Tony Robbins would call it the Dickens pattern, how much it's going to really transform you when it's deployed in your business or your life. So if I said, I can give you the ability to improve your triathlete performance by 30%.
Yeah.
What that means is, instead of training for 5 miles, you can train for whatever it is, 6.5.
Sure.
I can give you 5 extra seconds a mile, which means that over the course of a 26-mile marathon, you're going to have, if you are at least currently at par with the leader, you are going to have a 3-minute, and you got to show them the math, and most people don't understand that. Does that help?
There's no question, without a doubt. In fact, we've featured some people on ASBN here that were business owners. One young lady comes to mind that she owned a dress shop, and the dress shop did pretty well. Not, wasn't among the top dress shops out there, but they did okay. But what she learned was that so many women would come into the dress shop and ask, boy, I'd love to have a shop like this, but I don't know anything about purchasing, and I don't know anything about marketing, and I wouldn't even know how to start to negotiate a lease in a retail space like you've got here. Can you help me, or do you know somebody that can help me get started in my own dress shop? Well, doing what you just said, this young lady put together a program and said, sure, I'll do that. I'll be the one that can help you to do all of those things, because these women come in, they have a dream of owning their own dress shops. In this case, it's a female, woman's dress shop. And she made 10x, maybe 20x what, on charging a fee for her expertise and her consultation of these women that wanted to open up a dress shop. Wasn't a franchise, wasn't a licensing agreement, but she said, here's what I will charge, and we can get you a store open, and I'll show you how to do it. And obviously, with every store she opened, she got that much better herself as a consultant. Today, she's a highly paid consultant that doesn't even own a dress shop, but she shows people how to do it.
Well, let me give you a couple of real life stories that are pretty profound. I'll start with I started out working, and the last job I had was running strategy and business model for Entrepreneur Magazine. And we grew it 900% in a year. And I had some very proprietary methodology. And I was ignorant to what I'm sharing now. And I was a $5,000 a month consultant. And the average client would stay about 3 to 5 months. So it was worth approximately $15,000 to whatever it is, $25,000, $30,000. One day I realized I was making them all this money and I was getting this little. So I changed my model, and I said, I'd rather not get paid anything. I'd rather get a share, 25% of the increase, for as long as you use my methodology. In essence, I'm leasing my IP to you on a performance basis. And the first year I did that, I made $10 million.
Wow.
I had a copywriter colleague who was brilliant. Every piece of copy he wrote in the newsletter subscription world worked. And he was charging $9,000. This is many years ago, $9,000 to buy it and own it. So he'd get $9,000. He'd write this marketing piece, the sales letter. He'd give it to you, get nothing else. You'd use it. If it worked, you would be making millions of dollars.
Right.
I sat down and said, that's the dumbest model in the world. Why don't you do two things? Ask for the 9,000 as a retainer against
future earnings.
And the guy made $100 million. That's the difference. One way you make pittance, the other way you make a fortune. I can go on and on. It's really interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many business owners out there that know how to do something. They've opened up businesses. They might be running very successful businesses. And there are many, many people that want to learn those strategies and techniques. And maybe you don't even see yourself as a consultant, but in reality, you could be, right?
Well, there's other ways. You might know of a way that a singular type of a small or medium-sized business could add one more product to what they do, and that might double or redouble the profit they make from their bait business, but they've never thought about it. And even if they thought about it, they don't have the source.
Right.
If you've perfected it, you can have the methodology, but also the source, so you could ethically have a double play on it.
That's right. That's right. And we see this all the time in business, don't we? We see these people that have created these successful systems for their own businesses, but they haven't thought externally about them. And they could be working 90 hours a week in their business when in reality, the consultant business might only be 30, right?
And and there's a flip on it. You can get control. Certain consultants I've helped, we would get control of something and then flip it to somebody else to run it.
Yeah, there you go.
I've done that over and over again for my own account and for others. We'd find a perfect area that would be our expert application, but we didn't want to do it. So we would get someone else just to do the heavy lifting, and we'd get 75% of the revenue. It was the Tom Sawyer School of Business.
Yep, that's great. That's fantastic. Let me ask you, Jay, we get a lot of comments. We got a lot of emails here at ASBN, and there's a lot of people that are on the sidelines that are feeling as though now might not be a great time to start a business because of tariffs and because of all that's coming out of DC and inflation that we see, and we see interest rates still relatively high, although I remember back in the day when they were a lot higher. What do you say to those people that might be standing and waiting for the perfect time to start a business, whether it be a consultant business from your home or whether it be a brick and mortar operation? Those individuals that say, I'm not so sure, as much as I would love to jump in, I'm just not sure this is the right time to do that.
Well, I would say that so this, we had a book we came out with. I co-authored it with another gentleman a couple of years ago, and it was called Business Wealth Without Risk. And our thesis, which I think is pretty cool, is that why start a business from scratch in an inclement environment if there's a 1 in 20 first year success rate and a 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 5 years, success rate.
Sure.
When you get control of a business that has already broken through those barriers and is already what we would deem modestly to decently successful, but hasn't even come close to optimizing profitability, success, reach, utilization of processes like expertise licensing. And if there's a huge market of people my age who are just tired, and all businesses are going to change hands at some time, but the majority of them aren't going to be very sellable, and you can get them properly negotiated on earnouts. You can get them on on buy-ins, at earn-ins. You can do all kinds of things where you don't have to take a lot of risk.
That's right.
But we created this book to show it was three parts. Part one was the recognition of the fact that why do things speculative if you can get control of an underperforming asset that you could blow up, or you could roll up, or you could consolidate, or you could put together with other complementary businesses or competitive businesses. And then second, in the middle was all the ways, Jay Abraham's ways to blow up not just revenue, but EBITDA and on a sustaining basis. And then the third way was how to take this asset you got for almost nothing and then ultimately in 2 or 3 years sell it for a huge multiple over what you paid, and then basically rinse and repeat. Just take that and do it over and over again.
Yep, I love it. There's so many great opportunities out there, and that just don't have the tremendous amount of risk factor of starting your own business from day one. And they say that some 70,000 people are retiring each year right now, or 10,000 baby boomers actually retiring each day right now. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there. There's people that maybe couldn't have sold their successful business and they just closed the doors and they say, well, we don't have anybody in the family to run it. We're going to retire. And those businesses out there are searching for somebody to come in and go, we'll pay you with the proceeds of the business, right?
And I'll give you a flip. And it's basically, it's acquiring assets that are intangible or access. Mm-hmm. I had a friend many years ago who came to Los Angeles. He was an entrepreneur, but he didn't have a business. And he was looking at how to control access. Mm-hmm. And he realized that the Rose Bowl, where they play the Rose Parade, was only being used for the Rose Bowl and for UCLA's 13 or so games a year on a Saturday, and occasionally for a concert. Okay. And that was a concert. The rest of the time it was empty and being underutilized. It had the capacity and parking for, 30,000 cars, and it had the ability to have thousands of vendors. And
oh, yeah, sure.
Basically went to the county and he got the rights to operate a flea market. He knew nothing about a flea market, but he thought it'd be perfect. He had a performance deal where he had to share a percentage of the revenue on the gate, on sales, on booths that he would do. And he had assignability rights. As soon as he got it papered, he went and he found the country's largest professional flea market manager. He went to them and sold his rights for $1 million up front.
Wow.
And a fourth of their profit. I had a guy that did a similar thing. Australia in Melbourne had a rule, I can't remember if it's still there, but downtown you couldn't put signs on buildings, on the outside of buildings.
Right.
And he was a very cool non-thinker, but he realized you could put signs on the inside of any building with high traffic on the ground floor.
Yeah.
So he tied up, not for money, but for rights, the rights to a bunch of buildings that were high traffic. And when he had them all combined, he went to the number one sign company and flipped it for a fee and a percentage. So you can like that.
These are just deal makers, and they've got $0 invested.
But you're getting upfront, and you're getting a stream forever, and you've got no risk.
That's right. And think about how many cities are there in the country. You run out of stamina before you run out of cities to call on and buildings.
Supposedly in Canada, and I don't know if this would be true, but the guys that did the Tim Horton or whatever it is, the coffee shops,
sure,
in all the on all the gas stations on the highway, they got the rights and they just flipped it. They just got the rights to do these coffee shops. They didn't have a coffee shop, and they just flipped it.
Kind of the way I understand Marriott actually doesn't own a hotel, right? They're really in the licensing business, and that's it. I mean, when you think about that, that's crazy that a corporation like Marriott doesn't even own a hotel.
And McDonald's did it different, but all he did was take the McDonald brothers model and he did it himself. But
that's right.
Basically, if they're a real estate play, they get everyone else to put up the money.
That's right. But today, I think they're one of the largest real estate holders in the country, right? McDonald's.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And just the thing that I've been very exposed to in a positive way is that there's an infinite number of possibilities. It's just limited by two things: how rigid your thought process is holding you back, and how high your aspirational ability is to take it literally to beyond. I mean, most people, when they find a success formula, it's sad. Most people do it just enough to get above their comfort zone.
Right.
So if you've never made $250,000 a year, and I figure one of these mechanisms we've talked about today or in the other interviews, and I get to 350, I'm pretty cool. But what if the same method, when you don't basically stop, you just go, sort of infinitely, would get you 3 million or 10 million, but most people stop short of optimizing the capability of any concept.
That's right. They see success as being able to pay your current bills, right? And it stops there.
I teach, it's called power partnering, joint venturing, strategic alliances, becoming the recommended provider, getting endorsements, co-branding. And I show people how powerful it is because I've got, we could do a whole segment on it. I've got hundreds of success stories that are just off the wall, and I've got data galore. And I did it myself when I was in the seminar business, and we generated about $250 million, $250 million, using other people's access, distribution, credibility, no money out of pocket. And I'll get people to do it, and they'll set up one or two of them, and it'll work, and they'll stop.
Yeah.
And I did it. I had 40 newsletters that were my partner. I had Entrepreneur Magazine, Success Magazine, the In-Flight magazines, every entrepreneurial training company that did conferences, seminars. I had the #1 conference company in China, Japan, Vietnam, the UK, Thailand, Bali, all partners, and I didn't stop.
You're still not stopping. My gosh, you're going to be joining Tony Robbins once again on stage for a very powerful event.
I am.
Incredible. It's a love of yours, right? I mean, I think the money's great, and I know you you enjoy the money, and it's some sort of measurement. But I know deep down you love it, right?
I don't have a hobby. I mean, it's when you understand all the powerful upside leverage points. There's a concept that I was introduced to many years ago, and I love it. It's called knowledge asymmetry. Mm-hmm. A corresponding, and I think we may have talked about it in another segment. I believe that nobody has to compete on an equal playing field unless they abdicate basically gaining ethical advantage. There's all kinds of ways to gain profound ethical advantage. And if you don't have to compete the way everybody else does and try to win on grit, but you can win on leverage, you can win on strategy, you can win on better understanding of opportunity and why wouldn't you want to do that?
That's right. And it's so much fun for you. And so many people get so much out of your teachings and walk away as just a different human being, a different business person, myself included. And if you have not attended one of these seminars or checked out Jay Abraham online, you're just doing yourself an injustice. You got to check him out. Jay Abraham, business leader, top executive coach, founder, and CEO of the Abraham Group. Thank you once again for joining us here at ASPN. We very much appreciate it. Love all the time that we have with you. I know that our viewers, I can speak for our viewers, because they tell us, you got to bring that guy back. So till next time, stay well, my friend.
Thanks for watching The Ultimate Entrepreneur with Jay Abraham, exclusively on ASPN.com.